LifeLock, how can I help?
The IRS said I
filed my return,
but I haven't.
1 in 4 tax-paying Americans has paid the price of identity fraud.
What do I do?
My refund, though. I'm freaking out.
Don't worry, I can fix this.
LifeLock fixes identity theft guaranteed and gets your money back with up to $3 million in coverage.
I'm so relieved.
No problem. I'll be with you every step of the way.
1 in 4 was a fraud-paying American. Not anymore. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
Pod Save the King!
Hello and welcome to Pod Save the King. I'm Jennifer Newton, The Mirror's Deputy Royal Editor, and we're here for another episode this week. Unfortunately, Russell can't be with us this week, so I am with Charlotte Foster, who is The Mirror's Royal Reporter. Hi, Charlotte.
Hello, how are you?
Yes, very good, thanks. How are you?
I'm good.
Yeah, we're very happy today because the sun is shining. We'll give you a little weather update.
Yes.
We haven't done that for a while, but yeah, the sun is shining. It feels like spring's really sprung in the UK.
It really does. I'm here for it. The sun's been out for 2 days and I've already got hay fever, but I'm powering through because the sun's out, nothing else matters.
Well, yeah, and the sun has been out in Windsor this week because we've had the Nigeria state visit. Also had royals surprising a lot of people this week, which we'll be talking about later, and some other big landmarks and holidays that were marked this week as well by various members of the royal family. But I think we've got to start with the state visit.
Yes, first one of 2026.
First one of 2026. So yeah, we had the King and Queen welcome the Nigerian president and the First Lady to Windsor Castle. So it had all the hallmarks of a normal state visit. They had the carriage ride through Windsor. Well, I say normal state visit, the Windsor state visits that we've become accustomed to. Now they've moved to Buckingham Palace. Now Buckingham Palace is undergoing renovation works. They viewed items from the royal collection. We had the state banquet last night. There was some slight tweaks to the programme this time in that because Mr. Tinubu, who is the Nigerian president, he was observing Ramadan, which actually ends today. But yeah, he was observing Ramadan. So there was no lunch on the programme, which is normally a fixture of these things. So yesterday there was no lunch because he was observing that. And he broke his fast privately last night at sunset prior to the state banquet. And then there was a few more special adaptations as well at the state banquet last night, special mocktail. We've become accustomed to this, haven't we, this special cocktail.
We have, and it's such a reflection of the culture of the whoever's being welcomed for the state visit. I think it's such a nice little addition to the state banquet.
Yeah, I do. I think it's very Charles as well, isn't it, to have
it adds a bit more, like, it adds a bit of personality into it for whoever's being welcomed. I really like it.
Yeah, exactly. So rather than a cocktail, we had a mocktail, and it was a meat-free menu as well. So normally the main course is some sort of chicken or red meat, but they had fish last night at St George's in St George's Hall. So I think the one thing that state banquets always bring is the glamour, isn't it? We always like to see the dresses, the tiaras.
Yes.
So we had Kate there in her tiara and a lovely gown last night. So she was wearing a green androgen gown and the Lover's Knot tiara. So diplomatic dressing, wasn't it, again on show last night? You really liked this dress. That was the first thing you said to me when I saw you this morning.
I was like, good morning. I love the green dress. Yeah. Yes, I absolutely love it. I think that the colour on Kate is absolutely stunning. So flowy and beautiful. And with her hair out, we saw her with her hair out at the last state banquet in December. And I just think she looked beautiful. And like obviously representing the colours of the Nigerian flag. I just think it was a great look from Kate.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it as well. The Lover's Knot tiara, really love it. But I think, well, put it this way, I don't know because I've not actually worn a tiara, so I'm not speaking from experience. But apparently they are quite hard to wear. You know, they can dig in. I mean, if you wear a hairband all day or you have your hair tied up, I can imagine. So maybe that's just one for comfort that she likes to wear. I don't know.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of it over the last year.
She has tried out some other ones as well.
Yeah.
But you know what? She knows it looks good. So,
yeah.
You know, why change a winning formula? And a little bit of diplomatic dressing earlier in the day as well. So she did the whole flag colour thing, which we've seen before, haven't we? She tends to match the dress to the colour of the flag or the national emblem. Diplomatic dressing of a different kind earlier in the day. So earlier in the day, her and William went to the hotel where the President and First Lady were staying in Windsor to kind of greet them on behalf of the King, escort them back to Windsor for the ceremonial welcome. And she was wearing this grey coat dress. I couldn't really see the connection at first, but it was when they said that the designer was Tolo Coker, who is a British Nigerian designer. I was like,
Yes.
that is the connection there, honouring both Nigeria and Britain at the same time. And that was actually the designer. People might have forgotten this, but we'll remind people that was the designer who Charles went to see, whose fashion show Charles went to see at London Fashion Week.
It was the opening of London Fashion Week, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. And
Yes.
I mean, we all remember him at London Fashion Week, but I don't think we remember him at London Fashion Week for that. It was unfortunately it was the same day that his brother Andrew was arrested.
He was slightly overshadowed
It was
at the time.
It was slightly overshadowed. We don't often talk about fashion as much as we used to on the podcast now, but let's use this opportunity now to talk about it.
Yes.
So a lot of people were a bit on the fence about the grey coat dress. What did you think?
I was one of those among the fans on the fence. I think that the style of it was really beautiful. I just would have loved to have seen it in a colour.
Yeah.
That's my personal opinion, but I thought that the cut and the style of it was very beautiful, and obviously it's a nod to the British Nigerian designer. Absolutely understand that. I just wish it was in a brighter colour.
Yeah, I understand what you mean, but I think as well, it kind of, the Nigerian First Lady was in such a vibrant outfit and vibrant colour. It really made her pop, and I don't know if that was
true.
That was another kind of
Let her have her moment.
Diplomatic skill. Let her have her moment. And Kate, we have not. Sorry. We have seen in the past that I think Kate does kind of want to move away from people talking about her clothes and more on the work. And I don't know if this was a way of doing that as well, that she was wearing something so beautiful, but it was muted and understated in order to let the guest shine.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
Maybe that was what was happening there. But I think another fashion thing we have to talk about from the state banquet last night. I mean, Camilla looked great as always. I think this is going to sound a bit weird, but I think she's got a good head for a tiara, Camilla.
Yeah.
She can really carry off the big ones, and she looked great in her tiara last night.
Yep.
But Princess Anne, you've got to tell us about Princess Anne's outfit.
When I read this morning, it absolutely baffled me. So Princess Anne at the state banquet last night was wearing a coat dress, this beautiful floor-length white coat dress that had all these different embellishments on it, that she first wore to a movie premiere, I believe, when she was 15 or 18, or how old was she?
15, I think.
Yes.
15, was that right? And so that is like, what? I can't even.
50-something years
I can't
ago.
even do the maths, but yeah, it's more than 50 years ago. I mean, imagine having something in your wardrobe for 50 years and you can still get it out. I mean, imagine fitting into things that you.
I was just going to say
that when you're in your 70s, that you could fit into when you were 15. We did a really fun piece in the paper. Do you remember last year about Princess Anne and how she's the queen of recycling?
Yes.
And we saw coats and dresses that 30 years, 20 years on, she was still wearing them. I think 50 odd years, that's got to be
the record.
Even for her, hasn't it?
For sure. And I saw the photo of when she first wore it. And what I liked about it is she had obviously the royal family have tailors and everything on hand to alter all of their clothing. But the coat dress they'd added this collar to make it kind of more age appropriate.
Yeah.
And it, maybe perhaps to the untrained eye, it would look like a brand new piece, but it's almost 60 years old and still in immaculate condition. And she looks amazing. I'm just like, imagine being able to fit into something you wore when you're a teenager at that age. I think it's incredible.
Yeah, definitely. I think if we were to ever do the Queen of Recycling feature again on Princess Anne, that would have to be the top one.
100%.
Not many people probably have stuff in their wardrobe that would, like you say, still fit into or just have in their wardrobe full stop.
Imagine what the rest of her fashion archive must be like, though. Yeah. If you're holding on to things from your teenage years, there must be some exquisite pieces in there.
Well, they say fashion goes in circles, doesn't it? And
Yep.
so whatever was in fashion when she was a teenager has probably
back.
been back 3 or 4 times since. So yeah, it's probably wise to hang on to some stuff.
Yeah.
But obviously the whole point of a state visit is to forge friendship and ties and strengthen ties and possibly even, business and trade between Britain and the country that they're hosting. So in this case, Nigeria. Charles, obviously at these state banquets, always gives quite a fun speech. So he gave one last night describing Nigeria as this economic powerhouse, cultural force, and an influential diplomatic voice as he gave his address last night. And he was speaking as well quite poignantly about the chapters in the UK and Nigeria's shared history that have left some painful marks, but how both countries have learned lessons and are now moving forward together. And I think this all comes as part of, where we've seen in the past few weeks, we're living in quite an uncertain time, globally with what's going on in the Middle East and Ukraine, Russia, and all these places around the world where life maybe isn't as good as what it once was. And it is important. That's what I took from the speech. I don't know about you, but I thought it was what he was hammering home. It's important to, we all stand together, build friendship, and keep strong and fight back about, things that aren't just. Obviously, afterwards, when the day after the state visit, so just this morning, we have the formal farewell, and a Buckingham Palace spokesman actually said about the state visit that there was genuine warmth and mutual respect from the King and the President. As demonstrated from their 2 speeches, there exists a strong friendship and wealth of opportunity between our 2 nations. With the complexity of geopolitical issues across the world, it underscores the importance of standing close and proud with our Commonwealth partners. So, yeah, I think that's what the whole point of that was the whole point of the state visit. We might talk about fashion and it is fun, but that is the whole point of these state visits, and I think they can be quite happy with how it went.
Yeah, I believe so. I think it was definitely a quick one, but it seems successful on all sides. And on Charles's speech, I just think he's so good at like a really poignant message of hope. Yeah. So yeah, I think it was really beautiful and a nice way to kick off state visits for 2026.
Yeah. So obviously, next state visit is we don't know who's going to be incoming next, but we do know that the next outward state visit is probably going to be next month. So it might. I think that one will have a bit of a different vibe on it. King and Queen going to America. We spoke about it a few weeks ago on the podcast as well. So yeah, we'll be getting hopefully more details on what might be happening on that front. So yeah, join us in future weeks where we'll no doubt be talking about that. But Charles saying goodbye to the Nigerian president this morning, and then pretty much straight after, he was down in East Sussex today, where he was officially opening a new coastal walk, 2-kilometre walk, so quite a short one, on the Seven Sisters National Nature Reserve in East Sussex. And he was surprising some people there, wasn't he?
He was. So Charles was opening this new stretch of this coastal path, which I believe will ultimately stretch all the way around the country at some point, which is part of his coronation thing?
Project, yeah.
Thank you. Couldn't think of the word. But as he was walking on this lovely sunny day in East Sussex, he was getting quite a few double takes from people who were out walking their dogs and jogging in the sun and cyclists. He even stopped with a group of cyclists who were riding along on their e-bikes, saying that they were cheating with their motorised bikes. And he told walkers that he was hoping that he hadn't interrupted their peace and quiet.
Yeah, well, that's one thing we know about Charles, isn't it? He loves to walk. I think Camilla in a previous interview said that, I think she described him as a mountain goat, which I don't know if that's a compliment or not. I think it was a compliment in that he just, sets off, and that's how, that's one of the ways that he can relax and be in nature and turn off. And we know how, previously we've talked about his relentless schedule, even at the minute while he's still receiving cancer treatment, but walking is obviously his, tonic to that. Yeah. And I think that's quite nice that his coronation kind of legacy is going to be this coastal path.
Yeah, something that he's very passionate about.
Yeah, exactly, around the UK. But he wasn't the only one surprising people today. We also had Prince William in Bournemouth. So he was on Bournemouth Pier. So he travelled to Bournemouth. This is part of his Homewards programme for homelessness. So he was there to meet some international delegations who had come to see the work that has been done in Bournemouth and Christchurch and Poole on tackling youth homelessness. And the day started on Bournemouth Pier, and the pictures from Bournemouth Pier looked amazing, didn't it? Because it's been such a beautiful day here.
It's no wonder that the royals are out and about in the sunshine today on such a lovely day.
Yeah, exactly. A beautiful day on the south coast. He was on Bournemouth Pier, and again, people didn't know that he was going to be there, so he was, surprised people who were out on the pier enjoying the sunshine as well, snapping selfies, people trying to get pictures on their cameras. I think we've seen this quite a lot, haven't we? William and Kate, they do. Well, we just saw it last week at Borough Market. They were happy to stop.
And they are very aware of the fact that anywhere they go, they're going to draw a crowd, even if it is more of an unannounced engagement. And I just think that it's so nice for them to stop and be taking photos with people, because it's like, how often are you going to be, so close to the future king and queen? And I think to be able to stop and have a little moment with the people who have come out to wait and catch a glimpse of you, I just think is really nice.
Yeah, I think so. And that moment is something people are going to remember possibly for the rest of their lives.
Absolutely.
As well. And then afterwards, after he'd been on the pier, like I say, he met these delegations, and then they went to the Bourne Academy in Bournemouth, where they were talking about the everyday knowledge, the importance of everyday knowledge when you're speaking to students about the essential life skills they were learning in housing workshops. And obviously, homelessness is something so close to his heart and something that he's wanting to tackle. And I think this is something that we're going to see a lot more of, in the coming months. Him talking about his Homewards program as well. And there was quite a fun quote as well from somebody that he met while he was out in Bournemouth, who was thanking him for this program, and said something along the lines of, "You've made tackling youth homelessness sexy," which William said he hadn't heard before. But I think that's a weird feather in his cap, isn't it? To say that people recognise the contribution that he's making to trying to tackle such a an issue that is really sad that it's still cropping up in 2026. We obviously talked about Kate in green, but it wasn't the first time this week she was in green.
That's true.
On Tuesday she was marking St Patrick's Day with the Irish Guards. So this has become kind of a fixture of Kate's calendar, hasn't it? Being out there.
Yeah, she's done it a few years in a row now.
Yeah, even before, so obviously now she does it in her role as Colonel of the Irish Guards, but even before that, when it was William who was Colonel of the Irish Guards, she went with him. I mean, I was looking back at pictures from 13, 14 years ago where she was at this event. Yeah, so I think it has become one of those things that it's St Patrick's Day. You can, 99% certain that Kate is going to be there with the Irish Guards. So yeah, similar format this year. She was handing out the sprigs of shamrock to the officers and the guardsmen, and the big dog was there. Did you see the big dog?
I did see the big dog and obviously he was the regimental mascot, Seamus, the Irish wolfhound, and I did see Seamus and I was like, that's a wolf. He's a big boy.
Yeah, Seamus is someone, I'll have to name check our former Pod Save the King host, Zoe Forsey. She always liked to see Seamus. Yeah. We always called him the big dog, Kate and the big dog. And she got to give Seamus a nice little pat and give him his own spring of shamrock. I think his proper name's like Turlough Moor. That's the proper name of the dog, but Seamus to everyone else. Seamus to his mates, so we'll call him Seamus. And then obviously after the parade and she took the salute, there was a really lovely moment where she met some of the children of the guardsmen. And did you see the video where the little girl came over?
I did, and she's jumping on her, and I was like, Kate immediately just switched into mum mode, and I thought it was so sweet. And obviously we've seen Kate meet a lot of kids on different engagements, and she's always so quick to kind of get down to their level and have a really sweet interaction with them. But these little girls were so excited and just jumping all over the place, and it was a very sweet, like, mum moment, I think, for Kate.
Yeah, I think so as well. And I think as well, it kind of goes back to what you were saying about having your moment. I mean, even though those little girls, they look quite young, didn't they? Like maybe 3, 4 years. I
Yeah.
think one of them was 3, 4 years old. Even though they might not know who she is as such, they know the concept of what a princess is.
Yes.
And obviously those pictures of the two of them and the videos that were on social media of when Kate was meeting those two little girls, that'll be something that they can take with them for the rest of their lives as well, can't it?
Yeah,
Can't it?
it's a fairly unique experience to have with the future queen, I think.
I know. Imagine when these little girls have grown up and they're
she
like,
picked me up and swung me
women.
around by my arms for a second.
yeah, exactly. But one thing that I kind of always get from this engagement, especially in previous years since Kate has become Colonel of the Irish Guards, I think she takes the role quite seriously, actually. She always talks about her pride in it. And I remember, a couple of years ago when she was obviously stepped away from duties when she was having cancer treatment. And I think it was still the Irish Guards was something that she was still, she would send letters for when it was their turn to troop in the colour and things like that. And I think, it's a role that she does take seriously, given the fact that, she's not necessarily from a military background. She hasn't served in the military as such, but I think that's something that I just think that it's something that is important to her. And, she's been tasked with this role, I suppose, by the king, who hands out these military or like honorary military affiliations. So, I think, we always talk about her with, the early years and the arts. And I think this military thing is also something that we're going to see weaved through her work. And maybe not in the same way as the king, but, in these moments, like meeting the families, making sure they're looked after and that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
Yeah, it is a big deal. So, that is something we can look forward to in the future as well, I think. But on the same day that Kate was in, with the Irish Guards in Aldershot, I think this is your favourite story of the week, actually, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I'll admit, so this is basically how Prince William was surprised Greg James, who's doing this epic bike ride for comic relief. So he's riding from Weymouth on the south coast to Edinburgh. So is it 1,000? They're saying 1,000 kilometres?
Yes, I believe so.
So yeah,
a mammoth undertaking.
It's going to take him 8 days. I think he's on day 7, 6 or 7.
Yeah,
as we record.
One of them. Definitely
Just
over
now.
halfway.
Yeah, he's over halfway. I know that he was in my neck of the woods yesterday. So yeah, he is. He's slowly but surely making his way to Edinburgh. So yeah, he surprised him on his bike ride.
Yeah.
So
just north of Doncaster, I believe, while Greg James was pedalling through, making his way up to Scotland, he was surprised by Prince William, who listeners may remember, I think it was a few months ago, that William was on Greg James's radio show on BBC Radio 1 talking about mental health. And I believe at the time, when obviously the planning for this bike ride was underway, Greg James said to him, "Oh, well, you should come join me." And William was like, "Yeah, okay." Obviously not expecting that he would actually show up, but he did. And he jumped on the back of the tandem bike with Greg James and pedaled his heart out for a while. And while they were having a chat doing this bike ride, William said that, volunteering some of your time, putting yourself through a bit of pain at the same time and supporting others, it's something we do very well in this country and we don't really shout about it enough. This challenge helps everyone see that, and it's an amazing effort, so well done, Greg. And at the same time, when William jumped off the bike, he was able to tell Greg that they had hit their £1 million fundraising mark, which is great. But yes, he said that he felt very safe with Greg James leading the tandem bike, but added he was a little bit worried about a few potholes, but he came out in one piece.
Yeah, I really like this as well. I've got to say, I'll admit, I didn't quite know this challenge was happening because I don't listen to Radio 1 because I feel like I've slipped. I've gone over the edge and gone into Radio 2 territory now. But yeah, no, I thought this was really fun, and I kind of like the way that they've done a very like social media job on this as well, haven't they? There's been lots of fun reels posted on like Radio 1's Instagram
Well, that's
page.
how I found out about it when it first started. I am a prolific follower of Radio 1 and saw that it was happening. And then I think I saw it pop up on my Instagram before I saw anything else. I was like, what's Prince William doing on the bike? So, yes, there's been a lot of great photos and videos come out of this ride. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's quite a clever move as well from William to get in the to be on. He's been on Radio 1 quite a few times actually. Now I think about it, obviously he would have been on this week with Greg James and what you were talking about. I think it was a podcast, wasn't it, about men's mental health? And
yes,
I know he's been on before with Kate talking about mental health, and I've just alluded to it there about you Radio 1 has a specific demographic that it tries to target. I'd like to say William is older than me, so he's probably in Radio 2 as well. But I think it is quite, it is probably the right thing to do to get involved with things like this, because we see all these opinion polls all the time, don't we, about how maybe the younger generation don't see the significance of the monarchy, and they don't see, they don't have the same reverence for it maybe, and they can't see essentially sometimes what the point is. Yeah. But when you see somebody like the future king going on something like Radio 1, and you're opening yourself up to an audience that maybe not your traditional royal watchers. And it's also the same, it's, you're still getting that platform, but it's not, the pomp and pageantry that some like younger generations are struggling to kind of wrestle with, but it's very human, and it's for a really good cause, and it's like two mates cycling through like Yorkshire together. It's just very real, and I feel like having that kind of, everything else is all the glitz and the glamour stripped away from it, and it's for a really good cause at the end of the day. So yeah, I definitely agree with you. Yeah, I think that kind of social media, modern monarchy strategy is something we've definitely seen from William and Kate, and we're going to see even more from in the future. Same with social media in a way. Obviously, it was Mother's Day here in the UK on Sunday just gone. Mother's Day doesn't ever pass for the royals without a post on both the Prince and Princess of Wales's Instagram and Twitter accounts, X accounts, and the same for the royal family accounts as well. So can you tell us a little bit about what William posted on Mother's Day? Yes. So this year, William posted a very moving message about his mother, the late Princess Diana. He posted this beautiful photo of the two of them, which was taken at Highgrove in 1984, and the two of them in amongst a field of flowers. And alongside that photo, he wrote, "Remembering my mother today and every day, thinking of all of those who are remembering someone they love today. Happy Mother's Day," which I thought was a really beautiful message. It was very simple to the point, but it's, everyone's going to be thinking about their mums on Mother's Day. So I thought it was really sweet. Yeah, I think, there was quite a lot of people who were hoping that we might have a picture of Kate or, something showing the children. But I think this year it was maybe right for them to honour Diana in this way, because this year would have been her 65th birthday. Yes. Which the 65th anniversary of her birth is actually in July. So yeah, I think that's maybe why they chose specifically this year to make for William to make a post about Diana rather than, and that's not to say obviously that, Kate, they haven't not marked the day. And, and obviously celebrating in private, but there was no post for Kate this year. No, and I think, that's, they can use their social media how they see fit, and that's what they've chosen to do. And obviously, there's been quite a few. Well, certainly today, the engagement William was at in Bournemouth, which was homelessness, concerning homelessness, which was a cause that Diana was, William essentially inherited in a way from his mother and is carrying on her legacy in that way. So I think that was quite a nice tie up.
Yes.
For Mother's Day. And obviously the royal family, they also posted something as well. So we had pictures of the Queen, the late Queen.
We did.
Queen Mother. Then the picture of Charles with the late Queen as well.
Yes.
As a young boy. And then a really nice picture of Camilla with her mother, Rosalind Shand.
Yes. And he, in a similar kind of caption wrote, wishing mothers everywhere and those who might be missing their mums today a restful Mothering Sunday. And I saw this post and I thought it was lovely. A lot of people were very quick to point out that the photo of Charles with the late Queen also had Princess Anne in it, but Andrew was noticeably missing. And other fans were confused, some outraged over the photo, over the fact that there was no photo of Diana. And I wanted to ask your opinion on this. One fan wrote online, Diana should be remembered today by all the royal family who should be forever grateful to her for birthing their heir to the throne. Do you think that Diana should have been included in this little collage for Mother's Day?
Well, I think the thing is William did that job, no?
Yeah, that's what I thought as well. And it was confusing because I was like, William's already done that in his own way. Obviously, it's Mother's Day and the account that posted this series of photos was Charles and Camilla's.
Yeah.
So they've both paid tribute to their mothers and grandmother. But there was I was scrolling through some of the comments on the weekend and there was a lot of outrage. And I'm like, guys, you're on the wrong account for the photo of Diana.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you can't please everyone all the time. And I think they know that. So yeah, that was a bit of a strange one. I mean, there are some things that you can criticize everybody for, including the royal family, but in my opinion, I don't think that's one of them. So yeah, we're moving away from Mother's Day now, and we'll move to Sandringham now. Actually, so we all know that Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, he hasn't been seen since he was driven away from that police station after being arrested. Well, 3-4 weeks ago now.
I think it might be exactly a month ago today.
Exactly a month today, yeah, that he was arrested. And then, we got that incredible picture of him leaving the police station in Norfolk to head back to Wood Farm. We haven't seen any sign of him since then. Obviously been told to keep a low profile. But there was a little bit of movement, shall we say. So obviously he's at Wood Farm on the Sandringham estate, which is a temporary home for him while he waits to move into Marsh Farm, which is the home that we believe that he's going to be moving into probably sometime soon, actually. I think the talk was that it was going to be around Easter time. So that home has had to have major renovations done to it. I mean, we've had so many pictures over the weeks, haven't we? We had... we know that a massive fence has gone up around the property. We've seen workmen there, electricians. We even saw Sky TV engineers there, obviously maybe installing Sky TV, broadband, that sort of thing. I think yesterday there was people delivering fridges and carpets being fitted. But yeah, something that was quite interesting earlier this week was that there was lorries spotted driving into Marsh Farm. So there was 3 lorries that were from the firm Gander and White, which is an art logistics company with a royal warrant. And when I looked on this company's website, they are basically experts in transport and fine art, and they pride themselves. They work for people like the National Portrait Gallery. And it has kind of piqued people's interest, hasn't it, that 3 lorries from this company have arrived at Marsh Farm, which I think it's kind of asked questions in a way about what does Andrew what kind of art and fine art pieces does he have that he's going to be taking to his new home?
Yeah, and I think a lot of those questions kind of came from the fact that we know that obviously Royal Lodge in Windsor was enormous.
Yes.
And was
30-room mansion.
30-room mansion and decorated head to toe in artworks and artifacts and lots of different things inside that, obviously part of the royal collection. But because they belong to the royal collection, it's believed that they are staying at Royal Lodge. They're not part of Andrew's personal collection.
Yeah, they're not for his to take, essentially. Yeah, he doesn't own them. They're in the trust of the royal collection essentially. Yeah.
Yeah, so they either, sometimes put on display or often just moved around different royal residences. But he must have a fairly hefty private art collection if there was 3 massive lorries driving in.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that this is, something that has piqued people's interest. Definitely the fact that these three lorries really were seen from this company. But I think it also kind of shows that maybe this move from Wood Farm to Marsh Farm, it's not very far, still on the Sandringham estate, could be on the cards sooner rather than later. I mean, it would tie up with what reports have been suggesting that he was going to move in around Easter time. Obviously, Easter's only a few weeks away. So, we'll see if we might, I don't know, see him in the next few weeks moving house while obviously the investigations continue into his Epstein links and other things that people are looking into him about his time as a trade envoy. So we'll obviously bring you any updates on that when we receive them. I think we've got to finish really on Harry and Meghan, don't we? So it's been quite a week for Harry and Meghan, although we haven't really seen them as such. I know Meghan's been a little bit more active on social media because she's got a new launch with, as ever, it's a kind of a £200 gift box. So it's quite pricey, but you get tea, flowers.
I believe it's a collaboration with like a luxury kind of
florist.
Flower company, and it looks really beautiful.
Yeah. So we have seen a few posts because obviously she's promoting that, and a few posts of her with her children. So that's been quite nice to see, but it hasn't all been flowers and roses, shall we say, rainbows and roses for Harry and Meghan, has it?
No, it seems that they had a bit of a rough start to the week, as they are kind of the focus of a new royal book that's coming out by author Tom Bower. The book is called Betrayal, Power, Deceit and the Fight for the Future of the Royal Family, which was serialised by The Times over the weekend. And the first part of the serialisation made a series of claims about the Invictus Games. There was a claim in there that Queen Camilla told one of her closest friends that Harry had been brainwashed by Meghan, and also, reports of Meghan snapping at Prince William during some peace talks just after Meghan and Harry came back from their honeymoon. So a lot of big claims in there. And within hours of that serialisation being published, there was quite a surprising statement from Harry and Meghan, who tend to keep quiet about royal books coming out. There's a lot of them and you can't address them all. But with this one specifically, a representative for Harry and Meghan issued a fairly scathing statement, which in part reads, Mr. Bower's commentary has long crossed the line from criticism into fixation. This is someone who has publicly stated the monarchy, in fact, depends on actually obliterating the Sussexes from our state of life. The language speaks for itself. He has made a career out of constructing ever more elaborate theories about people he does not know and has never met. Those interested in facts will look elsewhere. Those seeking deranged conspiracy and melodrama know exactly where to find him.
Yeah, I mean, oh God, where do you start with this? There were some very, explosive claims in this book, I will say. And the fact that Harry and Meghan have, like you say, within hours, literally hit back with this quite explosive statement in itself, defending themselves. I think what I found the most interesting about this, I mean, people can make their own mind up about the claims, and, you've got Harry and Meghan fans and you've got people who don't like them. But I think, leaving that aside just for a second, what I find quite interesting about this is, like you said, there's so many books out. We get a book every week, don't we? We do. About the royal family, about whether that's about them as a whole or certain members of them. And whenever, we see claims like this and we put them to, Buckingham Palace or Kensington Palace, kind of the reaction is we don't comment on books. And I understand that is because, if you comment on one claim, you've got to comment on all of them. And
exactly.
Essentially, they wouldn't get any work done. But I think what was interesting about this is Harry and Meghan putting this statement out pretty quickly. It wasn't, it was quite a reactionary statement, obviously, but it was quite quick.
It was also lengthy. That part that I just read was only a small snippet of it. They seem very fired up over this particular book.
Yeah, exactly. And I think what it just shows is now they aren't under what they might say is palace constraints. They can put out statements whenever they want about whatever they want. And I think that's what they've done on this occasion. We had if you remember back a few years ago now, in the things like the Oprah interview and in Netflix, they claimed, whether this is what they claim, that they were never allowed to, quote unquote, defend themselves about claims now. And when we heard about, things like them moving and they called it the freedom flight, is this their freedom now? They've got the freedom to hit back at things like this because they're managing their own, household, if you want to call it that. They're managing their own office. So if they feel that that's something they want to hit back about, that's what they're going to do. And it will be interesting to see if this is something we see more of in the future. I think it probably will be. And they've got the freedom to do that now, and it's one of those things, isn't it? They could sit back and say nothing, but as we say every week, they're damned if they do and damned if they don't. But it wasn't just the Tom Bower book serialization that has been a bit scathing for them this week, has it?
Yes, no. So speaking of Netflix, we had yesterday, I believe, a piece published from Variety about their deal and workings with Netflix, with a series of insiders, anonymous insiders, kind of relaying how their original deal in 2020 first came to be and how things had evolved for Harry and Meghan. And a lot of the insiders had claimed that they were often quite difficult to work with due to poor communication and that the future of their partnership was in jeopardy. Obviously, we know last year that they signed another deal with Netflix that was believed to be much less lucrative than their original 2020 deal. And given the fact that there have been, obviously we've had With Love Meghan, we've had seasons 1, 2 and the Christmas special, but there hasn't been a whole lot of projects. So this has led these insiders to believe that the partnership is in jeopardy for the future. However, despite all of these claims from inside sources at Netflix, the Variety article had quotes throughout from Meghan's lawyer debunking the claims, saying that they still had a good relationship. And the day after the Variety article was published, the Netflix chief content officer also came out at a Netflix event and said that a lot of the claims weren't true and that there were still a lot of projects in the works and that they still had a really good relationship with Harry and Meghan.
Yeah, so obviously Variety being one of these kind of Hollywood, what do they call, showbiz Bibles? It's a bit like, Vanity Fair and those sort of...
the finger on the pulse in the entertainment industry, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So, it is what most people would term as a reputable publication. So it is, quite, I would guess, embarrassing that they would run an article like this. But like you say, it wasn't just, Harry and Meghan's spokespeople hitting back at some of these claims. It was Harry and Meghan's lawyer as well. So I think that goes to show how much they want to hit back at this. It's their lawyer speaking on their behalf as well. So I think, similar to the Tom Bower claims, it's something that they feel they want to hit back at. And, there's been a lot of talk about this Netflix deal, hasn't there? I mean, Netflix are no longer involved in As Ever. That was revealed, I think that was last week, wasn't it? That they are no longer a partner in her business. They were quite gracious in their statements, saying, we wish Meghan well and, we've come to the... I can't remember the exact words, but it was
very amicable.
It seemed like a very amicable statement. So, publicly and on the record like that, they don't seem to be wanting to rock the boat. So I think it's just one of those cases it does still remain to be seen, doesn't it? Because on one hand you can say that they haven't said anything bad about them. But then on the other hand, you do have to look at their output. I mean, With Love Meghan didn't really, I would guess, get the success that Netflix or Meghan wanted, unfortunately. The likes of the Polo docuseries, Heart of Invictus, they didn't, jump up the Netflix ratings that very much.
They came out very strong with their 2022 docuseries,
Of course,
which had tens of millions of viewers, and it seems haven't really been able to do anything of a similar.
Yeah,
caliber.
They haven't been able to replicate that. But yeah, thanks very much for joining me this week. We'll be back next week. So until next time.
Pod save the king!